The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Marcus, Reed's corner office like tiny fists. Demanding attention he refused to give. For 37 years, he had built walls around his heart brick by brick, each one mortared with the belief that compassion was a luxury successful men couldn't afford. The pharmaceutical empire he commanded from this glass tower had made him one of the wealthiest men in America. But tonight, as he stared at the small, weathered diary lying open on his mahogany desk, those walls were crumbling faster than he could rebuild them. It had started 3 hours earlier when his secretary buzzed him about an unusual situation in the lobby. Marcus had been in the middle of rejecting another charity request, something about funding a children's hospital wing, when she mentioned a little girl asking to see him personally. "Tell security to handle it," he'd snapped, not looking up from his acquisition reports. "Sir, she's been here for 2 hours. She says it's about her mother's medicine." Marcus had paused then, his gold-plated pen hovering over documents. That would close yet another small pharmacy, eliminating what he considered inefficient competition. He almost dismissed it entirely. But something in his secretary's tone made him curious enough to agree to 5 minutes. The girl couldn't have been more than 9 years old. She stood in his massive office like a sparrow in a cathedral, her too-big coat dripping rainwater onto his Persian rug, clutching a worn leather diary against her chest. Her dark hair was plastered to her head, and her brown eyes held a gravity that belonged to someone much older. "Mr. Reed," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My name is Sophia Martinez. Can you read this for me? It's important." Marcus had built his reputation on reading people as quickly as balance sheets, but this child puzzled him. There was no desperation in her voice, no dramatic tears, just a quiet certainty that somehow unsettled him more than any boardroom confrontation ever had. "Sweetheart, I don't have time for—" "Please," she stepped forward and placed the diary on his desk with the reverence of someone handling a sacred text. "My mama wrote this for you before she died." The words hit him like a physical blow. Marcus found himself reaching for the diary before his rational mind could stop him. The leather was soft with age and handling, and when he opened it, he recognized his own company's letterhead on several pages. Letters his legal department had sent. Form rejections and policy explanations that had become as routine to him as breathing. The first entry was dated 6 months ago. "Today I got another letter from Reed Pharmaceuticals. They're raising the price of Elena's insulin again. I don't understand how they can do this to families like ours. Don't they know we're already choosing between medicine and food? But I won't let anger consume me. I have to believe that somewhere in that glass building, there's still a human heart beating." Marcus felt his throat constrict. He remembered the insulin price increase, a necessary adjustment. For market optimization, his CFO had called it. The numbers on his reports had been clean, profitable, abstract. They hadn't included stories like this. He turned the page with trembling fingers. "I met another mother today at the pharmacy. She was crying because she couldn't afford her son's cancer medication. The pharmacist told her the price had tripled this month. I gave her the money I'd saved for Sophia's school supplies. She hugged me so tight I thought we might both break. Maybe that's what it takes, breaking a little so others can stay whole." The entries continued, each one a window into a world Marcus had spent decades avoiding. Sophia's mother, Elena Martinez, had written about working 3 jobs to afford medicine for her diabetic daughter. She'd written about choosing generic groceries and wearing shoes with holes so Sophia could have her insulin. But incredibly, woven throughout the struggle were acts of breathtaking generosity, helping other families, sharing resources, creating a network of support that his corporate policies had made necessary. "I've been thinking about Mr. Reed lately. Sophia asked me why some people have so much money and others have so little. I told her that maybe people with money just haven't remembered yet that we're all connected. Maybe they need someone to remind them. I think I'll write him a letter." Marcus looked up at Sophia, who had been standing silently by his desk. Did your mother ever send me a letter?" Sophia nodded, reaching into her coat pocket. She pulled out an envelope, unsealed but never mailed, with his name written in the same careful handwriting as the diary. "Dear Mr. Reed, I know you must receive hundreds of letters like this, and I know most of them probably ask you for money or special treatment. This letter is different. I'm not writing to ask for anything. I'm writing to thank you. I know that sounds strange, given that your company's pricing has made our lives incredibly difficult. But here's what I've learned. Every challenge in life teaches us something important, and you've taught me that there's enough kindness in ordinary people to fill any gap that business creates. Because of your policies, I've met the most generous, loving community of people I could ever imagine. Families who share everything they have, who drive each other to appointments, who celebrate every small victory together. You've taught me that compassion multiplies when it's needed most. You've shown me that my daughter is stronger than I ever knew, and that I'm braver than I ever imagined. Most importantly, you've given me a chance to discover who I really am when everything else is stripped away. I'm dying, Mr. Reed. The stress and exhaustion have taken their toll, and I won't be here much longer to take care of Sophia, but I'm not angry anymore. I understand now that you're not evil, you're just forgotten. You've forgotten that every number on your reports represents a human story. You've forgotten that your decisions echo through living rooms and kitchen tables and hospital rooms across the country. But I believe people can remember. I believe hearts can change, and I believe that somewhere inside the businessman, there's still a little boy who once cared about making the world better. I'm leaving Sophia in the care of my sister Maria, who loves her dearly, but struggles to afford the insulin too. I'm not asking you to change your prices, though I hope someday you will. I'm asking you to remember us, to remember that behind every transaction is a story, and behind every story is a person who matters. With hope and forgiveness, Elena Martinez. P.S. I've taught Sophia that the most powerful thing we can do is see the good in people, even when they can't see it in themselves. She insisted on bringing you my diary personally. She believes in you, Mr. Reed. Please don't let her down. Marcus set the letter down with shaking hands. The office that had always felt like his castle now felt like a prison. Through his window, he could see the city lights twinkling below, each one representing families like the Martinezes, people whose lives his decisions affected in ways he'd never bothered to consider. Sophia, he said quietly, where are you living now? With my tia Maria. She's really nice, but she cries sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking. The insulin costs more than her rent. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling something crack open inside his chest. Not break, but open, like a door that had been locked for too long. When he opened them again, Sophia was still watching him with those impossibly wise eyes. Your mother was wrong about one thing, he said, his voice rough with emotion he hadn't allowed himself to feel in decades. Sophia tilted her head, waiting. I'm not a good person who forgot. I was a scared person who learned to stop caring because caring hurt too much. He stood up, moving around his desk to kneel in front of her. But your mother, she reminded me that being scared isn't an excuse. And you were brave enough to come here and share her story. Over the following months, Reed Pharmaceuticals underwent what business journals called the most dramatic corporate transformation in pharmaceutical history. Marcus didn't just lower prices, he revolutionized the entire industry, approach to life-saving medications. He established need-based pricing, funded community health centers, and created a foundation that ensured no child would ever again have to choose between food and medicine. But the most important change happened every Tuesday evening, when Marcus picked up Sophia from her aunt's house and they had dinner together. She'd tell him about school. He'd tell her about the families his new policies were helping, and sometimes they'd read entries from her mother's diary together. Mama was right, Sophia said one evening, as they walked through the children's hospital ward that now bore Elena Martinez's name. People don't forget how to be good. They just need someone to remind them. Marcus squeezed her small hand in his, watching as nurses administered free insulin to diabetic children, their families' faces bright with relief instead of worry. Elena Martinez had been right about something else, too. Compassion did multiply when it was needed most. Her diary had started a chain reaction of kindness that rippled through every corner of his company and beyond. That night, as he tucked Sophia into bed at her aunt's house, which he'd quietly bought and gifted to Maria, she looked up at him with her mother's wise eyes. Thank you for reading Mama's diary, she said softly. Thank you for bringing it to me, he replied, meaning it more than any words he'd ever spoken. As he drove home through the same streets where he'd once seen only profit margins, Marcus Reed realized that Elena Martinez had given him something far more valuable than he'd ever given anyone else. She'd given him back his humanity, one diary entry at a time, proving that sometimes the most powerful force for change isn't anger or demands or protests. Sometimes it's just one person brave enough to believe that even the hardest hearts can remember how to love.